The EU is collapsing in a domino effect across the whole world. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I have tons of information to cover today, so I'm going to try to go through it concisely and briefly. Let's look at this article first out of CNBC. The Dow sets the first record close for 2015. The S&P at a high on Greece deal. So here we are again celebrating what is such great information. We have every reason to be happy. Let's go into this here out of the Telegraph. And it's talking about the Greek deal that occurred. So I'll break it down very briefly. These ultimately seem to have led to a compromise solution in which the Greek exit from the euro is avoided. So, of course, they basically postponed this crisis into the future. Although the Eurogroup meetings in Brussels was ongoing at the time of the writing, preliminary press reports suggest that Greece has achieved an extension of the current program to end of June. So they have allowed this can to be kicked down the road for a few more months, and this will buy them time while they make some decisions. So there's much more information in this article if you'd like to read it for yourself, a lot of quotes from what has happened here, but I have to move on into the next article, which is connected what happens now. And there's talking about the press conference here that they are going to present a list of reform measures based on the current arrangements. Then they're moving forward. It said it will be conditional on these measures being judged as sufficient by the EU, IMF, ECB. And that's the Troika, as a step towards completing the current bailout. So, of course, the Troika still has its hands deep inside of this, and they will not let go, that's for sure. So they are still having to approve what is happening here. The control hasn't been given up at all, even though the new Greek government suggests that they will push them away. So we're going to move on right here into how this is connected throughout Europe and, of course, into the rest of the world as we talk about Denmark. Denmark is ready to impose capital controls to protect the currency. This is very, very dangerous. You know, this is exactly what Switzerland had done and other countries do all the time. And we're talking about Denmark, where he says they will defend the peg to the last drop of blood, meaning they will do this at all costs. If it takes restrictions on free capital movement for a period to defend the fixed exchange rate, I assess that the central bank would be willing to go that far. This is very dangerous for those who have their money in the banking system because, of course, if you can't get your money out, it is really no good to you. Denmark's deposit rate had already been slashed to a record low, minus 0.75%, having been cut 4 times in less than 3 weeks. So they're obviously going in a direction that is not positive. And then further on, they basically said that they're buying massive foreign exchanges of 32 billion euros this far to prevent the krone from developing into a safe haven. So, of course, if your currency is strong, that is now considered to be a bad sign. And this is not the only country that is finding itself in this predicament where we need to have weak currencies to allow the exports to take place and to make it good for the global economy. In my book, I wrote about this and basically was talking about China. China has bought the U.S. treasuries for their reserves. These treasuries support the value of the dollar. This keeps the dollar floating higher than where it actually should be. At the same time, in relative terms, this keeps the Chinese yuan lower than it should be. So this basically is how they are manipulating the currency. This is a currency war that is taking place. And this is very evident with China. So I'll move on to actually this diagram right here out of China. China balance of payments, looking at the quarterlies here, and we can see that money is flowing out of China right now, and this is a very big problem for them because obviously they need the growth. The entire global economy needs the growth of China because of their mass amount of consumption for their public works projects and for their expansion in general. So this is very dangerous to see how a slowdown is occurring in China in not just this one regard, but I have brought up many charts showing you the same thing. And this is interesting right here. We're looking at Russia being downgraded to junk. At the same time, their index is one of the best performing index of the year thus far. So it's very interesting to see that. And I just wanted to note that. And at the bottom right here, Ukraine obviously not doing well with all the turmoil that is going on right now. I'm going to move on right here into this, and we're talking about oil and gas being unusually better than all of the other markets around. This is the US here, employees in the US by industry, and you can see how oil and gas, obviously over the past few years, since the beginning of practically about 10 years ago, this chart goes back, and we're looking at how well it is of a performer in terms of how many people are employed in it. But if the rigs are closing, as we have been noticing, then we will have more unemployment. If we have this more unemployment taking place, the government will have to step in to print more currency. So this could very well be used as an excuse to begin a QE4 or Operation Twist or whatever they have up their sleeves. So this is just some very interesting information. Now, this connects in with the U.S. manufacturing PMI down significantly over the past year or so, and we can see how it peaked out and has been dropping ever since. This is obviously because there is no real manufacturing base in the United States any longer. There are some, but over time, they are being shipped overseas. And one last one for this, manufacturing employment has been basically stagnating since the financial crisis, where it dipped down significantly. But we know what's happening when you give bailouts to companies like General Motors. They will just take that manufacturing, they'll close down the plants, open them up in the third world or the developing nations, and they will simply bring their business so that they can have additional profits overseas. When you have an unstable environment, when you have a crisis that is being formed, it affects the initial country, but also has a domino effect in the opposite, or let's say the countries in the area. This is Venezuela right here, and they actually arrested the mayor of Caracas, and they said that he was accused of having plotted an American-backed overthrow of the government and threatened to plunge Venezuela into a new political convulsions. So, of course, they took him in and they arrested him on Thursday evening by intelligence agents who fired weapons in the air. It was viewed as opposition as the kidnapping of a political rival to President Nicolas Maduro. So what they've suggested here is that he was going to overthrow the government and then get into power. And of course, when you have this type of thing happening, you're going to have the current president, the current administration have to take action. And in this case right here, they accused him, whether it's true or not, they accused him of this, and they will basically eliminate their opposition by all means possible. So this, of course, the turmoil that's going on in Venezuela affects the economies around, not just geographically close by, but also in the wider economy as well. I've had readers contact me about Trinidad and Tobago being very, very close by to Venezuela and how this is affecting them. And of course, you have the situations that I've discussed here about Italy and how ISIS, what's happening with the turmoil in Libya, could very well affect Italy and of course the rest of the Eurozone, as the borders are so very close. So a crisis could definitely spill out into the neighboring regions as people seek a safe haven. So this is of course geographically an issue as well as geopolitically an issue. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. You got to be a subscriber on here as well. The videos come out practically every single day, and there are new subscribers every single day to the channel, to the insiders, and I appreciate all of the listeners, all of the readers, and of course, don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is where I give out all my best intel for free. That is available at themoneygps.com. You just scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.